Language Journey's latest episode, in which we explored the early language learning encounters that created our identities and communicated styles. I'm Faiza, and I'll be talking about how my early experiences with oral language shaped who I am now and sharing a little bit of my personal narrative. My mother used to sing me lullabies before going to bed, which is one of my earliest memories. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is the tune that sticks out the most. Her voice was sweet, and I can still remember how it calmed and protected me. We spent a lot of time singing together. She would sing and hum while cooking, and occasionally we would simply start singing along with any rhyme or reason. Even though I didn't give it much thought at that time, looking back, I see how crucial this was to my language development. According to Vygotsky's social cultural theory, language develops through social contact, and I now see that these straightforward, everyday conversations were strengthening my pre-literacy abilities. Language is not just spoken words, it's a body language and the use of different communicational methods. I was capturing more than just my mother's singing. That is, I was also picking up on the nuance of tones and emotions, as well as the rhythm of language and phrase structure. I also remember playing with my siblings quite well. I used to play these very creative games where language was alive and not simply uttered. We would rush around, making up stories as we went along, each contributing in a unique manner to the overall story. At times, we used loud, while language that matched the intensity of our activity. At some times, it was all silent, hidden, as if we were preparing a complex game of hide and seek. Language was about connection in our play and not simply communication. As I think about it now, Halliday's functional theory of language makes so much sense. He clarifies that language has a variety of uses, such as for creative and interactive reasons. Language became a tool for constructing worlds, expressing oneself, and forming connections when we were playing. Apart from being enjoyable, these early light-hearted encounters played a vital role in boosting my confidence in oral language. However, I had one of the most profound linguistic exchanges with my grandma. It was in her tradition to tell stories. She would tell us stories from her youth every evening as we gathered around her. These were tales of family, laughter, and sometimes just plain persistence. These were tales that been passed down orally down the centuries. That is, they weren't things where we read in the books. I felt a connection to my heritage and culture through this custom. It transformed language into a means of sustaining identity rather than merely a means of communication. My idea of language as something that is highly social and cultural was greatly influenced by oral storytelling. Social cultural theory of language informs us those oral traditions and storytelling play a critical role in development of social identity and cultural belonging in addition to literacy. One of my all-time favorite children's books was Eric Carle's The Very Hungry Caterpillar. My father would read it all to me every night, and even though I couldn't read the words myself, I learned a bit of the narrative. I would mimic the reading the pages while repeating it to her. Long ago, before I could read formally, these shared reading experiences gave me an understanding of language structure and sequencing. My oral language abilities were developed through these early experiences, which included playing with my siblings, singing with my mother, listening to my grandmother's stories, and reading with my father. These were social behavior that bonded to my community, my family, and the outside world rather than being alone. We live with a language is not about something we use. These exchanges taught me that language is a tool for connection building, emotional expression, and world making. I appreciate you traveling with me on this personal trip that emphasizes on spoken language as a social, cultural, and identity shaping instrument. I want you to think back on your own early language experiences after hearing my narrative. Recall that language has power because it allows us to communicate with one another. Keep chatting, singing, and sharing your tales on language journeys until we speak with you again. See you!